Making moves that will change the course of the war is not work of every commander. Specialized, well-trained, and intelligence commanders can only make such moves, and if an army has many such commanders, it will be advantageous. But what if it doesn't have it? So then situation becomes very difficult for the army, especially if the army is fighting in a wide geography, and the army feels deficiencies of such commanders very much. The status of an intelligence and successful commander of an army is determined not during the attack, it is determined during the defense as well. So when we look at the Russia-Ukraine war, we observe how unqualified the Russian army commanders are. So since the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia has faced many threats. Most of these threats could have been eliminated if lessons had been learned from the experience. But the Russian leadership and the Russian commanders did not do so. And now they're paying the price. In recent days, the Ukrainian armed forces once again carried out a missile attack on the Belgorod region. So what are the details about this missile attack? Let's take a look at developments together. As the Pioneer team, we continue to prepare our reports on Russia-Ukraine war for you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily reports. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button below the videos. Thank you for your support, and let's start if you are ready. So the war between Russia and Ukraine is in full swing. The infantry units of the two armies are making concreted efforts to gain the upper hand against each other. So far, this effort has been inconclusive, and the war is still going on after more than 2 years. However, the struggles here have revealed the great truth. The military power of the Russian Federation is not enough to defeat Ukraine, because the Ukrainian army and nation as a whole are resisting the Russian army with a magnificent resistance. So, of course, there is also the issue of not repeating the mistakes made, but the issue is that the Ukrainian army preferred to resist despite the fact that there was no possibility of success at some points, and as a result, it suffered huge losses during the resistance here. However, the Ukrainian army abandoned the mistakes and started to withdraw when necessary. In this way, the Ukrainian armed forces saved a large number of soldiers, equipment, and firepower and prepared the process for the Russian army to face a stronger defense line. So the Russian army, on the other hand, did not learn from the mistakes because there are certain patterns in the Russian army and it's impossible to break these methods and models. So the most important of these is the unquestionably of decisions that Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, makes. So decisions of this president, who is known as a dictator, cannot be questioned by anyone. Putin sometimes makes the same mistakes over and over again. And however, since no one can say these mistakes, the price is paid. So a similar situation happened again in the past days. As it is known, the Belgorod region, located on the southwestern borders of the Russian Federation, has once again shaken by a cross-border operation carried out by the Free Russian Legion in recent weeks. So this cross-border operation against the Belgorod was neither the first nor the last. However, this was already known, and at least people who had lost their judgment. Imagine that you are head of the Russian Federation. What will happen if you not continue to protect the Belgorod region after all these events? So, of course, you will be hit by this region again and again. So recently, the Ukrainian armed forces struck another blow to the Russian Federation through Belgorod. The missiles which took off from the launchers in the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces once again moved towards the Belgorod region with the greatest spread. So, of course, the Russian air defense systems tried to intercept these missiles. However, as always, the Russian air defense systems were insufficient. And according to reports, the missiles launched by the Ukrainian armed forces, the model of which is not yet known, hit one of the services buildings of the Russian Foreign Ministry in Belgrade. So, as I've stated many times before, Russian official sources, again, did not make any statements on the subject. However, local sources and unofficial Russian sources continue to inform the public as always. According to the claims of local sources, a large explosion occurred with the missiles hitting the buildings, and the nature of the explosion is not yet known. In addition, a healthy determination has not yet been made regarding the loss and damage in the building. So, according to local sources, during this incident, the Russian fire brigade and law enforcement agencies were also inadequate during the search and rescue. So, therefore, there is talk about the possibility of more casualties. There is this state of anger again in unofficial Russian sources. In our previous reports, I've shared the data about the reports of these sources with you. Unofficial Russian sources are generally in a situation that can be described as extremely pro-Russians or Russian nationalists. Therefore, their view of the war was quite clear at the beginning of the war, and these sources were often propagandizing for the war in the Ukraine to intensify this and to spread to an even wider area. However, these sources have now come to the end of this, and official Russian sources are no longer asking the Russian leader Vladimir Putin to attack. So at least they want borders to be protected, and commenting on this Belgorod attack, and unofficial sources said these things. Enough is enough. What is the government for? What is the war leadership for? And why they're here? If they can't protect the scared Russian lands, how many mistakes has Belgorod been targeted by the enemy? And does Putin know what about it or anything about it? Does he plan to do anything? Of course not. The war plan of the Russian army, the war leadership, and the Russian war leadership is nothing. If the enemy had been a leader stronger than us, we would have suffered much worse. And the great and powerful Russian army, which they exaggerated with lies, would have just watched. So as can be seen, the anger of the unofficial Russian sources is growing every day, and the sources increasing criticisms again, and is a great threat and a danger for the Russian leadership. It seems that a new front is opening up against Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation. And this front is an internal one. The president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, is already in a really difficult situation that he will find it even more difficult because of the internal front. So according to the most allegations revealed against the Ukrainian armed forces, the Ukrainian armed forces continue secretly develop their offensive capabilities. The exponential growth of this capability is fueling the growing threat to the Russian Federation. Most of the open source intelligence reports are currently unfavorable to Russia, but the fact that the Russian leadership is still determined to threaten Ukraine with contempt makes it clear that the situation will remain similar as a long time. So, what do you think? Do you think that the increased capacity of the Ukrainian armed forces will be enough to defeat the Russian army? What do you think about the inadequacy of the defense of Russian army? And if you think Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, make it rational decisions or not? So let me know in the comments, because you know that I read and I care about all of your comments.